instead of saying, well, I'll look at this religion, I'll look at that religion, I'll look at that religion, and what I think is right from all of them I'll take, and what I'm not sure about, you can keep that. I don't feel right to me. I'll come to my truth, thank you. Instead of that, you get an off-the-peg religion, and you have to contract to all elements of it, no matter how nonsensical you may be, because if you don't, you're not a Christian, you're not a Jewish, you're not a Jew, you are not a Hindu, you are not a Muslim, because you don't contract to all these things. Don't think for your bloody self. You take what we say off the peg is the truth. So let's have a look where some of these things came from. That sums up religion for me. There's these two old, kind of, Stone Age people, and they've got these two pile of stones here, like, and he's saying to his mate, doesn't Throng look silly? He must know that our pile of rocks is the real God, And that's the way that we've gone. We have been focused away from the fact that we are multidimensional infinity, not only part of the great I, we are the great I, into thinking that we have to look up to some deity that's been created, and there's always a middleman in between us and the deity. Have you noticed that? What I call the religious Mr. 15%. I mean, is it really not possible to talk to the divine without going through a bloke in a long frock? I mean, is it possible or what? I don't know. Maybe it's me. And here's something else I find interesting, because I'm a strange man. You look at the origin of all the major prison religions, and where do they come from? The same area of the world. Judaism, Christianity, Islam come from there, of course, but so does Hinduism, which was taken into the Indus Valley, the stories that later became the Vedas, the religious books, etc., by, according to conventional history, a white race from the Caucasus Mountains that went in there. And, as I said earlier, one of the focuses in the ancient world, the focus probably, of these particular bloodlines I'm talking about, was Babylon. And out of Babylon, funnily enough, just a coincidence, has come the blueprint for control by religion. In Babylon, they had, this is a Freemasonic symbol, but it symbolizes a lot of the Babylonian stuff. This manifested this image of the eagle looking both ways here as the Roman god Janus, of the face looking both ways. And one of the major mind control projects on the planet is the Janus Project, based at NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium. But in ancient Babylon, they had three deities in their trinity. That comes up again and again. One was Nimrod, the father, and then there was Tammuz or Ninus, the son, and they said that the Father and Son were one, and only through them could you get to heaven. And the female aspect of the Trinity was Queen Semiramis, who they symbolized as a dove. They symbolized Nimrod as a fish. And what they said about Tammuz Ninus, the son, was that he died to save humanity. It's thousands of years before Christianity. And when they killed him, they put him in a tomb, they rolled a rock across the front, and 3 days later, when they rolled it back, Tammuz had scarpered. I think I've heard that somewhere before. And what you get is this recurring theme and these recurring stories, which, as the passage of time goes, just get put in a different context, a different time frame, with different names. And we're supposed to take them all bloody literally. I mean, like, we take this guy literally. You see, when the Illuminati moved from their center in Babylon to Rome, not only did you get the Roman Empire, you got the Roman Church, which became the Christian Church. So we went from the place Babylon, where the blueprint of control by religion and the stories that so many of them came out of, they moved home to Rome, and suddenly we get another religion that's based on the same stories. The coincidences are amazing. Oh, he's got a big hat, look, I love his hat. Actually, someone pointed out some of the symbolism of that. When you look at that hat sideways, it's like a fish head, And the fish head keeps coming up in terms of Nimrod, which symbolizes a fish. Now, this is a wonderful example. You look at the deities who died so our sins could be forgiven, died at Easter, and born on December 20th, the Virgin Mother. There's endless numbers of them. This is a classic, one called Mithra. Mithra was basically replaced by Christianity. And the reason that so many people moved from Mithra worship across to Christian worship was because it was so bloody seamless, or just the names changed. Everything else was the same. They symbolize Mithra as a lion, the sun. They said that he held the keys to heaven. And there's the serpent, the snake, going around him. They said of Mithra, he was born to a virgin mother. He died to save the sins of humanity. They brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh to his birth. And on it goes. It's just a mirror. When you go back even further to ancient Egypt, on the left, you've got Horus, the son of God of ancient Egypt, that is constantly symbolized, as I've shown, by the Illuminati, who go back to the Egypt big time with the bloodlines. And on the right is Jesus. Some interesting little correlations here. Where are we? Jesus was the light of the world. Horus was the light of the world. Jesus said he was the way, the truth, and the life. Horus said he was the truth, the life. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, the house of bread. Horus was born in Anu, the place of bread. Jesus was the good shepherd. Horus was the good shepherd. 7 fishers board a boat with Jesus. 7 people board a boat with Horus. Jesus was the lamb. Horus was the lamb. Jesus is identified with a cross. Horus is identified with a cross. Jesus was baptized at 30. Horus was baptized at 30. Jesus was the child of a Virgin Mary. Horus was the child of a Virgin Isis. The birth of Jesus was marked by a star. The birth of Horus was marked by a star. Jesus was the child teacher in the temple. Horus was the child teacher in the temple. Jesus had 12 disciples. Horus had 12 followers. Jesus was the morning star. Horus was the morning star. Jesus was the Christ. Horus was the Christ. Jesus was tempted on a mountain by Satan. Horus was tempted on a mountain by Set. Did they have plagiarism laws in those days? I don't know. We seem to be following ourselves rather obviously here. And what these things kept doing was creating prison religions, not only prison religions that were fiercely enforced to keep people from expanding their minds to see the true nature and magnificence of who we all are, whatever our genetic background. This, you would think, is Mary holding Jesus. It's classic. This is how the ancient Egyptians depicted Isis holding the baby Horus. The cross supposed to be a Christian symbol. No. It goes back as far as you can follow history, the cross. So, I'm not going to go into this now. There's too much to do. But like I said earlier, there's a tremendous amount of evidence that a Roman aristocratic family, very much part of the bloodline, called the Piso family, wrote the original gospel stories, which have, of course, been rewritten and messed around with ever since. Now, the person who took those gospel stories and turned them into the religion we know today is a guy called Constantine the Great, the Roman emperor, who called together 318 bishops, it is said, at his palace at Nicaea, which is now Iznik in northwest Turkey, to make them decide what Christians should believe, because they were arguing among themselves like crazy, and so they should. Who's to tell anyone what to believe? But he wanted a creed which everyone would agree on, and then it would be fiercely enforced. They had a punch-up, apparently. They were kicking and cussing, and eventually he imposed what's called the Nicene Creed, which is still the basis of what Christians are supposed to believe to this day. This cross is part of the mythology that the night after, or the night before the Battle of Mithraean Bridge, when he was fighting to become emperor, that he saw this cross kind of manifest in front of him, and Jesus said, by this cross you will conquer, but in this sign you will conquer, to be absolutely accurate. Now that sounds like the bloody Prince of Peace, doesn't it? I mean, it really does. And Constantine the Great wasn't a Christian. He was a sun worshipper. He was one of the bloodlines. He worshipped a deity called Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. And to him, he was creating just another sun-based religion for the masses to take literally, to keep them in line. And that's where Christianity came from, although the vicar didn't tell me that. Stone Age people, and they've got these two pile of stones here, like, and he's saying to his mate, doesn't Throng look silly? He must know that our pile of rocks is the real God, you know. And that's the way that we religion, and you have to contract to all elements of it, no matter how nonsensical you may be, because if you don't, you're not a Christian, you're not a Jewish, you're not a Jew, you are not a Hindu, you are not a Muslim, because you don't contract to all these things. Don't think for your bloody self. You take what we say off the peg is the truth. So let's have a look where some of these things came from. That sums up religion for me. There's these two kind of, you know, gone. We have been focused away from the fact that we are multidimensional infinity, not only part of the great I, we are the great I, into thinking that we have to look up to some deity, instead of saying, well, I'll look at this religion, I'll look at that religion, I'll look at that religion, and what I think is right from all of them I'll take, and what I'm not sure about, you can keep that. I don't feel right to me. I'll come to my truth, thank you. Instead of that, you get an off-the-peg religion.